Hello and welcome to the Man Panel 3. I'm Michelle Marchant Johnson and I'm so excited that you're here, and I'm so excited to share the wisdom of these amazing men with you. And I'm thrilled to have a returning guest with us today. He's back by popular demand, and that is the amazing PJ Dixon. So welcome, PJ.
Thank you, my love. How are you?
I am so well and so happy to have you back.
Thanks. I'm super glad to be here with you. I love you so much. I want to squeeze you every time I see you.
Well, the feeling is mutual, so consider yourself squeezed.
I like that. I do.
All right, so before we get started into what I know is going to be an incredibly valuable conversation, I want to share just a little bit more about PJ with each of you. PJ is a lifelong motivational speaker and an international life, love, and relationship coach who focuses on results. He is affectionately known as the Love Guru. After spending any time with him, you'll understand why. He lives his life with a single mission: love deeply and teach others to do the same. PJ is the creator of 2 different coaching programs on love and relationships. And despite PJ's disability, which was expected to take his life by 7, he chose to live and live well. We're so happy you're living and living well, PJ.
Me too.
PJ has truly lived an extraordinary life: sailing, outdoor skydiving, indoor skydiving, trapezing, ziplining, hiking, mountain climbing, snow skiing, water skiing, aqua jet packing, and the list goes on. I love that. He's a former wheelchair athlete, international traveler, amateur watercolorist, founder of 2 nonprofit organizations and 4 disabled sports programs, a published author, 10th degree black belt, martial arts, and women's self-defense instructor, and on top of that, a meditation teacher. Additionally, PJ has been inducted into the National Hall of Fame for People with Disabilities and was nominated to carry the Olympic torch through Tucson in 2002. Love that.
Thanks.
So PJ, we're going to have an incredibly important conversation today, and we're going to talk about some of the things that women need to know about men, women, and relationships. So I want to start right out by asking you, what are some of the current trends or phenomenons you see in relationships between men and women, and some of the insights that you think women need to understand today in their love, dating, and relationship experiences?
Okay, so I see a lot of different things that are going on, and I have clients all across the world, and some of the things that I see are similar across the world. The number one thing that I see, and I'm sure the women that are watching this is that there's so many men from 20 to 80. And I mean that. I literally have clients that are in their 70s that are like, all these men that are 75 or 80, they just want to hook up. And I'm like, what? Like, I'm so shocked by that. And so online dating is not a bad thing, but the problem is there's so many men out there that are using it in essence to troll, to find women who are willing to just be sexual with them. And the problem with that is that women aren't holding their standards as high as they possibly can because they're not getting the attention and the affection from men. So what they do is they drop their standards and sometimes accept something that's less than ideal for them, and significantly less than what they deserve. I hold women at such a high level that I want women to hold themselves at that high level so they realize the value that they are. And when women don't hold themselves at this high level, men get away with stuff. So when a woman holds herself at that high level, then a man feels like he needs to raise the standards. And what I hear from the women right now is that, yeah, but there's no good men out there. And that's not true at all. The thing is that the trending is moving away from sort of a middle class, right? Where we hear a lot of times that the middle class is going away in the financial arena. So we've got the wealthy getting wealthier and the poor getting poorer, and some people that are learning how to use the internet really well and skipping over middle class and going right to a more wealthy standpoint or a wealthy position, which is wonderful for them, right? But with the loss of the middle class, I see that as exactly the same thing as we have good men and we have not so good men. we're losing that sort of in between where we either have remarkable men who are loving and kind and emotionally intelligent and are good dads and good husbands and they help with the house. And they're coming into what I call this new man masculine, right? I love this new man masculine because they're genuinely, genuinely good men. And I surround myself with those kinds of friends. I have lots and lots of friends all over the world, and I only surround myself with amazing, good men. And so I can tell you honestly, there are remarkable men out there. I can also tell you that the other trend is that without that middle class, so to speak, the opposite direction is what I imagine most of your audience is finding, and that is that a lot of these guys don't want a relationship. They can't commit. They're not emotionally intelligent. They just want to have sex, and they're players. And when women try to sort of, they go to that bar and they go to the out with their friends, or they go to the bar and they sort of put on that face where it says, don't come and talk to me. The problem is that that face is a bit counterintuitive. You think that you're wearing that to protect yourself. What happens actually is you're attracting the players, you're attracting the bad guys, and the good guys go, oh, I want to respect her, so I'm not going to go over and talk to her. But if you're smiling and beautiful and shining from your heart, and there's a beautiful smile on your face, and you're welcoming, what happens is nice guys feel a little more inclined to be able to come and talk to you. However, I don't know if you know this as ladies, one of the great things for you as a lady, for us as men, is for you to kind of give us a little bit of an okay or an approval that it might be okay for you to come in or for us to come and talk to you. And when you give us a smile or a little bit of a wave, that says, hey, I might be interested in you coming to talk to me. It doesn't mean that you're going to go out with them. It doesn't mean that that guy might have been the perfect choice for you. It just means that you open the door for good guys also to come and talk to you versus only the players. I feel like there's a couple more trends that I'm seeing, but I can't think of them right now. Those are the big ones, is that women are lowering their standards to basically pick up the table scraps, and that's not okay. With me, that's not okay. And the truth is that's not actually okay with men either, because all men want that standard to be held high because we want to protect. We want to provide. We want to be good men. And when women hold that standard high, it gives us the chance to climb that ladder to impress you. It makes us better men, and we like that. We want to be better men.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. That's great. There's a lot we can pick up on there. And PJ, so a couple of other follow-up questions to what you've just said here. So I do agree with you that I think there's a lot of women out there, particularly who are online right now, who find the experience to be very frustrating, very discouraging. The site might be matching them up with completely unsuitable matches, and the people that are writing to them appear to be completely unsuitable or saying very inappropriate things or looking for a hookup right out of the gate. And yet, for so many women, they're not feeling like they have as many opportunities to meet men offline in real life, and it can become very discouraging and very frustrating, and a lot of women just kind of feel like giving up. And you and I are here because we believe in love. We believe in the power of love. We believe that love is one of the greatest gifts and joys of life. And so what words of wisdom or encouragement or ideas do you have around that? I know that was a big question, but just
don't give up. Word of wisdom number one, don't give up. Because what happens is you get depressed, you get discouraged, and you're like, well, I'm just going to quit. Is that how you show up in your life? Or you quit in other areas of your life? You get discouraged and just say, okay, I quit. I'm not going to do that. If that's the way you're showing up in other areas of your life, that's the way you're going to show up in your dating world. If you say, no, the standard of living that I have right now is not good enough, I want more, you're allowed to want more. That's okay. And if you say, no, the standard that the men are coming and showing up with is not good enough, I want to raise the standard on the kinds of men that come to me, then raise that standard and hold that bar high. And you start with yourself. Are you being classy? Are you being the lady that you want to be treated like? Are you treating yourself in the way that you would expect somebody else to treat you? I'm not asking you to become snobby. I'm asking you to become classy and gentle and delicate and beautifully in your feminine. And when you come from that place, you will start to feel better about yourself. And when you start to feel better about yourself, then you will be able to say, you know what, I love being classy. I love feeling good about myself. I love feeling feminine. I love the way I get to nurture people and look at people and be soft and kind with whether they're people in my life or complete strangers, like walking through the grocery store and kneeling down and touching the face of a 4 or 5 year old little boy or little girl and talking to them and allowing that natural nurturing, that soft side of you to really come out. And then when you say goodbye and walk away, continuing to carry that softness and that feminine grace with you, learning to walk just a little bit slower so you can be present and in your sensuality. And I don't mean sensuality, sexuality necessarily, not necessarily, but your sensuality, meaning all of your senses, your sight, your sound, your smell, your taste, feeling the ground underneath you as you walk, feeling the breeze on your skin. So moving a little bit slower so you're more present and aware. And so when you become more in that feminine, when you become more sensual, again, not necessarily sexual, but sensual, the 5 senses, including the heart, so making it the 6, excuse me, the 6 senses, then in that space, people will receive you and experience you differently than they might be experiencing you right now, especially if you're coming from that space of discouragement, right? Because when you're in that space of sensuality, of that feminine grace, you're also open. When you're discouraged, you're closed. So nobody can get in and nobody wants to fight to get in if you're discouraged. And there's evidence to demonstrate that our brains actually delete information. And so when you're in that discouraged state, it deletes any possibility in front of you. You don't see it. Your brain just doesn't see it. Yeah. But when all of a sudden you shift and your brain is like open and receptive and you see the beauty in the world, and you see the kindness and you see the gentleness and you see the generosity and you see the patience, all of a sudden your eyes start to see, you stop deleting the positive and the beautiful and the opportunities before you, and you start seeing more and more and more of those. And so that will start to pour into you. It's just the way our brains work, right? So we actually really do create our own life. So, and then in addition to that, is this answering the question? Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. And then I don't really remember I know what the question was. So dating online, right? Versus like finding those men. So if you want to be classy and you want to be feminine, you want to be treated like that, then start to think about, okay, what kind of men would appreciate that? And what kind of men, what do those kinds of men like to do? Where do those men like to hang out? What do they like to talk about? What might they be interested in? What kind of friends would they have? And then begin to orchestrate your life in a way where you can start bringing those kinds of friends into your life. Notice I said bringing those kinds of friends into your life versus going out and hunting for a man. Big, gigantic, humongous difference, because that's the stepping stone. So many people want to go, okay, cool, now let me jump into the pool and find a man. That's fine, but why don't we find a group of friends that honor and support who you are and this new classy feminine person? Why don't we find more feminine women and bring those into your life? Why don't we find more women in your life and more men who appreciate generosity and kindness and patience and are good to children, and maybe even are part of fundraising events or art gallery opens, or building a new park or playground for the children. And when you start showing up like that and you start making those kinds of friends and bringing those kinds of people into your life, then those kinds of people begin to introduce you to other people. And it used to be that we met most of the people that we get married to at work. And that's not happening as much. And it shifted for a little while to meeting most people online. And now what it's doing is it's shifting to people actually meeting their spouse through a friend, right? There's still a huge number of people that are meeting online. There's a significantly reduced number of people meeting at work. And there is an increasing number of people being, we had mutual friends, or a friend of mine introduced me. So start to improve the quality of friends and raise the standard of the friends that you're hanging out with. I'm not suggesting get rid of your other friends. I'm suggesting incorporate more higher class, more gentle, more kind, more loving kinds of people into your life. And as you do, you will increase the opportunities for you to meet the next gentleman for you to date. Maybe the one, which is what we're all looking for. And so there's one more piece to that. Give me just a second. So how do you meet new people, right? One of the things that I suggest is randomly we find ourselves talking to people periodically, and they're often like 2 or 3 minute long conversations. You walk away and you're like, oh, that was nice. right? And then you go about your day and you never think about them again. In 20 seconds, you forget their name. However, if you elongate that conversation and you extend that conversation to 5 minutes and you remember that person's name, by the end of a 5-minute conversation, what happens is you're often like, wow, I think you're amazing. I would love to stay in contact with you or maybe grab lunch sometime. Would it be okay to exchange numbers or emails? Oh my God, that'd be amazing. Let's do it. Right? So now you just made a friend. And then what you need to do is you need to follow up later that day and just say, hey, I was just thinking about you. Just want to say it was really great to meet you. And then a couple days later or a week later, no more than a week later, say, hey, I wondered if, you wanted to sit down and grab lunch, or you want to grab coffee, you want to get, some brunch on Saturday. Extend an offer to create that connection. And then when you show up, really find out about them, ask about them, learn about them, share, become open and vulnerable. Not open and vulnerable where you're crying right away, but open and vulnerable about some of your past, good stuff, and some things that you've struggled. But if you talk about the things that you've struggled, talk about how you've gotten over it. So that person is like, wow, this person is amazing. I really like who they are and how they show up. You up-level them also. And that makes them choose better people. So what I'm suggesting is we make ourselves better. As we make ourselves better, then the quality and the kinds of people that come into our lives get better. Let me add one more thing. I literally did exactly what I'm telling you last night for one of my former clients. He reached out to me because I work with women and men and couples. And he reached out to me and he's like, oh, my girlfriend she says she needs some time. And so I've moved into my own place. And my response to him via email was, in this time of separation, make yourself better, work on personal development, make yourself much better. And then I wrote, trust me, ! Because what's likely to happen is she doesn't feel very good about herself. And unless she actually really gets counseling or comes to me or Michelle or somebody else to actually work on what's going on with her internally, then she's not really likely to come back to him. She might, but what's more likely is she's going to get used to being alone. And what happens is, I'm sorry I'm giving you guys so much and doing all the talking. I just get so excited. The human brain looks for evidence to prove itself right. So she has this belief system that she's not worthy. And so since she believes she's not worthy, she's looking for evidence to prove it. So when she's alone and not with him, what will happen is she'll be like, oh, this is more natural. This feels better. And it's not that it feels better. It's just that it's like somebody who has a crooked spine and they go to the chiropractor and the chiropractor pops it back into place and they go, oh, this feels great. But after a while, they're like, I mean, it feels great, but it feels so awkward. And like I have to hold it and pop, they go back into this unnatural state. But if the chiropractor worked on them every day, boom, 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 pretty soon this would be their natural state alignment. So unless she gets support, she is likely to allow that I'm alone and I deserve to be alone to be the evidence for her beliefs that she's probably not even aware of. Our beliefs are invisible killers sometimes for us. And they're sometimes invisible killers for relationships. And they sometimes make us blind to what's right in front of us. We look for evidence to prove what we believe. And if you don't believe that you're worthy, if you don't believe that you're beautiful, if you don't believe that you're sensual, if you don't believe that you're feminine, if you don't believe that you're allowed to be any of these things, if you don't believe that a man will find you interesting or attractive, you're going to look for evidence for that. And that is exactly what you'll find.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the tricky part about that is that a lot of times those beliefs are more on the unconscious or subconscious level, and yet our confirmation bias, we develop this confirmation bias. We go out there in life and gather evidence, levels of evidence after levels of evidence to confirm that original belief, which was likely false to begin with. And then the confirmation bias becomes so strong that it's very difficult for us to be able to see anything else.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Okay, T. Harv Eker wrote a book called, I think, The Millionaire Mind, okay? T. Harv Eker, inside The Millionaire Mind, says, if you want to change the visible world, start with the invisible, right? If you want to change the visible, start with the invisible. If you want to change the root or change the fruits, change the roots. So what he's saying, if you want to change what you see out there, right, or you see in the mirror, change the way you think. right? The thinking is the invisible. The external world, or your physical body, is the visible world, right? If you want to change the fruits, if you want to get different fruits, if you want your fruits to be more juicy and delicious, meaning the results of your actions, meaning the men that are interested in you and the friendships that you develop, change the roots, meaning change how you feel about yourself, change how you think about yourself, change how you show up for yourself. Now, for me, I think that it's really important for us to talk about, like, how do you do that? Is that okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Because if we don't talk about how to do that, people are like, yeah, I know, I hear that all the time, but that's not good enough. Just to hear it's not good enough, right? We need to make a change. But the question is like, yeah, but how? Like, that's my biggest struggle. How? I don't know how. And so it's a little bit like when we don't know how to change. This is a terrible metaphor, but I'm using it because I've personally recently experienced this in one small part of my life, which is fascinating. It's a perfect metaphor for right now. And sorry, it's kind of a little unpleasant to think about, but it's a little bit like having your foot staked to the ground, okay? And all you can do is walk in a circle, right? And I changed my perspective by changing where I stand in the circle, but I can't seem to go anywhere. I'm not going forward. I'm just going in a big circle, and this is really what I want. And I don't know why. And there's the problem. I don't know why. So rewind a little bit and start to feel, where is that feeling in your body? So I said, talking about staking in the foot, right? And sorry, I know that's a terrible visual, but it gets the point across, okay? What I actually felt when I started to do this activity on myself recently was, oh, it's not in my foot, it's in my solar plexus. Not quite in my heart, but it's in my solar plexus. And it felt like a gray nail. So what I needed to do is I needed to deconstruct, and I want to say it again, I needed to deconstruct that belief, because any belief that you have was constructed from the not the principles, the programming of some situation or event or person or a group of people in your past. And it didn't even necessarily have to be directed at you. You might have seen something and then immediately taken on a belief system, and then you adopted and constructed a belief system, and that belief system nailed you down or held you down and allowed you only to see a perspective that it would allow you. So you only have this range, right? So what we get to do is we get to stop and go, okay, where am I feeling this in my body? Where am I feeling the tension or the place where I'm being held down? Where do I feel like I'm not being able to move forward? And so physically feel it. I felt it in my solar plexus. And then ask yourself, does it have a color? Does it have a shape? Does it have, is there a metaphor? For me, it's like a spike. I'm sorry, I don't want this to be graphic and terrible, but I'm just being honest. And I want you to realize that for me, I felt like I was spiked down. I was held down. And so a friend of mine said, well, who did that to you? Great question, right? And the answer was, nobody did that to me. I adopted the beliefs based on something that happened to me in the past. Excuse me. I adopted the beliefs based on not even one thing that happened to me, but a collection of things that happened to me over a period of time. And I adopted those beliefs and, in essence, staked myself to the ground and nailed myself to the ground in this one area of my life that I wasn't moving forward where I wanted to go. The moment that I was like, oh, there's the metaphor, I see it, I feel it. Immediately the moment I recognized it and was able to say, no, I did that to me. Nobody else did that to me. Those were the beliefs that I adopted. I immediately started to pull that spike out and deconstruct it. I immediately started to pull it apart. And some of the ways that you can pull that apart are, you can start looking at, what were the beliefs that you developed, and were they true or not true? And are they honestly true, or are they just a belief? And if they're just a belief, then what is the real truth? So sometimes going back to the origin of some of those situations and going, when did I adopt that belief? Oh, I adopted it at this moment in my life. Okay, cool. And then what was the belief I adopted? Great. And how did that change the trajectory of my life? Okay. And so then rewind once I go, okay, that's how it changed the trajectory of my life. Come back and go, okay, here I am. And this is when it happened. And this is the belief I adopted. Okay. What did I believe seconds before? Okay, this is who I was seconds before. Great. So is this more real? Yes, this is more true. Okay, great. So now hold on to that. Write down everything that's true, and then come back into that false belief. Come back to the belief that you created and start to deconstruct it by asking, what is the belief that I adopted? I adopted, meaning it's not true. Okay, this is one little piece, or this is one piece, or one sentence, or one thought, or one feeling. Cool. Is that true? Back up a few seconds. No, this is actually true. So do I need to keep that? No. Can I let that go? Absolutely. Set it down, let it go, destroy it, throw it away, deconstruct it, whatever you need to do, whatever ritual or process or practice you need to do. Maybe it's journaling, maybe it's crying, maybe it's talking to the mirror, maybe it's smiling and laughing, maybe it's like setting down that little deconstructed whatever belief you have and hugging and re-embracing the old you and pulling that new belief into your heart like it's your best friend that you haven't seen in years, and squeezing them and pulling them in to that space in your heart, and then deconstructing the next piece and then asking yourself, is this true? No. This is true a few seconds before. Yes. Do I like this? Yes. Do I like this? No. Deconstruct. And then re-embrace, squeeze, and bring that into you again. All right. So there's all kinds of ways that you can do it, but go back and start to deconstruct that belief. And there's a million ways that we can do it. But identify a color, identify like find the feeling in your body. What color is it? What is the metaphor? What is the shape? What's holding you down? It might be an anchor. It might be a rope. It might be an anchor attached to your back and you can't go forward. You keep getting pulled back. It might be a bungee cord that pulls you on. You can only go so far before you get jerked back. It could be a stone in the way that every time you try to step over, you stub your toe and you're like, ugh, drat, that stupid stone. I got to get rid of that thing, right? I don't care if you dig a hole and the stone drops and you cover the stone up. I don't care if you blow the stone up or if you just gently go down and say, hey, Mr. Stone, you are really beautiful. Let me take you over and put you in a really beautiful place in my garden. And let me honor you and really nurture this amazing energy that you brought into my life. So every time I see you in my garden, the garden represents growth and you're part of my growth. You remind me of who I get to be, that I get to step beyond that and over that. So thank you for reminding me of where I was limiting myself, but I no longer have to limit myself. So thank you for reminding me. Set it down in this beautiful place in your garden, and then you can walk freely down your path. I don't care what the metaphor is. What I care is that you create a visual metaphor for it and you change it, you modify it, you reshape it, you change its color, you deconstruct it, you move it, you blow it up, you like nurture it into something else, grind it down and make it sand and create a Zen garden. I don't care, right? But allow it to be your process of growth and healing. And then, like for me, as I've pulled that spike out and deconstructed that gray spike, it also had gray lines, not one, lines back to my dad. Because I was just this little tiny lover when I was a boy. And then when my mom got married when I was 3, that man, I was always afraid of him and he instilled fear in me. And so when I realized that, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is perfect. So now I'm not even afraid. Like now I watch those gray lines. And those gray lines were attached to the spike. I pulled that spike out. I deconstructed it. I'm telling you that because then I did this. Then I healed the wound. That's what I want the ladies to realize. There's another piece of that. You get to heal that wound. You get to heal that part of your heart, your soul, your body, your mind, your psyche, your belief system, your vision, whatever it is. You get to heal that in whatever way you want to heal it. And now just expand light into that. Pour some light into that. Let that part of you that got healed actually be integrated with the rest of you, not with scar tissue, reintegrated as if that wound had never occurred, and let everything start to flow and function normally and properly again. Light, energy, love, generosity, whatever it is, let everything function normally and let go, release, deconstruct, let go of, create a space where you can honor that obstacle that was before you or that limiting belief that was before you. You can honor it or let it go, whatever you want, but it no longer gets to be integrated with you, but the wholeness of who you are gets to be integrated. You get to move forward as if the few seconds before that situation occurred, that person, if you remove that situation that happened here, we remove that situation. So this few seconds before when I was in perfection, I get to flow forward into perfection. I get to carry that into my present life and into your future. And I guarantee it will up-level your femininity. I guarantee it will up-level your level of class. I guarantee it will up-level the way you look at yourself, the way you appreciate yourself, and the value that you recognize that you bring to this world. It's beautiful. And when you do that, you bring more love and joy into other people's lives because you have more love and joy in yours. And then you will start to no longer be blind because your brain won't be deleting the things that it doesn't believe in. It will now be seeing the things that are really there and available for you. The abundance and the opportunities and the gifts and the beauty will be right there before you.
Yeah, that was beautiful. Very inspiring. Thank you so much for sharing that. It just really, really was beautiful. And, I just feel that this whole process that you described of the deconstructing and the clearing and then the healing is a big piece of us as people, as women, believing in our own value, because those things tend to be the kinds of beliefs that block us from seeing our own magnificence, our own beauty, our own splendor, of having our hearts fully open, available, ready to give and receive love fully. And so there are also beliefs that, if we're going full circle here in our conversation, there are also those beliefs that can create a dynamic where a woman has beliefs that block her from being able to feel the sense of her own value. And they may create those dynamics that are creating a woman lowering her standards or settling for less than she really wants or deserves, because she's not grounded in all of that. She's not grounded in those beautiful things that we were describing here.
So one of the things that I like to say is I encourage people not to love more. Seems weird, right? I thought we were talking about learning to love and love ourselves and find a romantic relationship. But let me finish it. I encourage men and women and couples not to love more, but instead to remove the obstacles separating you from love. Because as you start to let go of those limiting beliefs, release the resistance and overcome the obstacles, what you're left with is love. Mm-hmm. And what you're left with is authenticity. And what you're left with is generosity. And what you're left with is femininity. And what you're left with is kindness. And what you're left with is high levels of standards and what right and righteousness is. And not in like a religious or better than thou kind of way, but like righteous for rightness. Instead of saying righteous, let's say rightness for you. Right? What works for you? Why were you born? How were you born? How were you born to move? How were you born to dance? How were you born to love? How were you born to make love? Who were you born to make love with? How? Right? And all of that comes out naturally when you begin to say, hey, you know what? This old story, this old feeling, this old belief, this old doubt, this doesn't work for me anymore. And so I think I'm going to let it go. I think I'm going to retire it. Maybe I'm going to bury it. Maybe I'm going to give it away. Maybe I'm going to give it back to the person who gave it to me. Maybe I'm just going to go for a hike and say, hey, you know what? Let me pull it out of my body right now. Physically pull. Whew, wow, I feel better. Thank you. And universe, I'm just going to place it right here on the rock. And you're welcome to do whatever you want with that energy, transmute it into something juicy and delicious. But I no longer need it. So thank you very much. So I'm going to leave it here, and you leave it on the hike, and then you walk away, and you never take that hike again. Mm-hmm. Right? So find a way to let go of whatever that is that's blocking you from, or causing you to believe, or allowing you to believe that you are less than, because you are not. You are more than you will ever know that you were born to be. There's more love in you than you could even recognize right now. And the only thing stopping you from being connected to that and the perfect life that you really want is the belief system that you're not worthy, you don't have enough, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, tall enough. Whatever that I'm not enough is, it's false. It's not real. It's untrue. Because in the depths of our hearts and our souls, what draws us to another person is the connection from energy to energy, life force to life force, masculine to feminine. Even within same-sex couples, there's a masculine and a feminine attraction. The masculine and the feminine complement each other. They are not opposites of each other. They are complements of each other. They nurture and feed and pour into each other, much like the yin and yang, spinning and spinning and spinning. And it has a little dot of one color and a little dot of the other color. And, within it, like, so the black has some white in it and the white has some black in it, because it's saying that we have this ability to integrate and to merge together and to morph together. It's always the act of making love. Even our conversation right now is an act of making love. Every conversation, a very good friend of mine says, is either I love you or I need to be loved by you.
Mm. Wow. Well, this has been so beautiful, and I really appreciate your reminder that our natural state is a natural state of love. When you described yourself as that 3-year-old little lover, that just made my heart, that just got me in the heart, because I just couldn't imagine and see you.
Mhm.
But it reminded me how, as children, our natural state was love. We didn't have the guards put up. Typically, we didn't have the guards put up, or we weren't afraid. We didn't have biases against a certain color of skin or a certain gender or a certain, we were just there. We were just open-hearted little lovers. And I just love that description. And I can just imagine and see you and imagine how adorable you must have been, and still are, by the way.
I really was a cute little kid.
I
I
have,
looked at the picture and I was like, oh, I was so cute. I love it.
I have no doubt. And I just love that reminder that our natural state is love, and the way that you described even having a conversation. And I often think about, in this work that we're blessed to do, PJ, I often think about how deep our desire as human beings is to love and to be loved, and to have that feeling of being in love. And yet, this whole opportunity that's available to us right now, no matter what our relationship status is in the moment, is to be beings of love, and have that feeling of being in love because we are love.
And you know what? Let me add to that. Let me support what you're saying. Sensuality helps you with that, because sensuality brings you into the present moment, and it allows you to appreciate the senses and the things that are coming into you. One of the greatest experiences that I've ever had is I was driving through, where was I? I was driving through Palm Springs with a friend of mine and my mom, and Palm Springs, it happens to be in the spring, and Palm Springs has lots of orange trees and lemon trees, and it happened to be when the blossoms were blossoming, and the blossoming is absolutely amazing, the smell of it, because all of a sudden it literally just wafts across the air, and it catches your nose, and it's just the smell of heaven, and it brings you into the present moment, so you literally just are absorbed and taken in by all of that amazing, amazing good smell, that good sense, and it just brings you into the present moment. So when you become sensual, when you become aware of your senses, then all of a sudden you're in the present moment, and there's a level of appreciation, and that level of appreciation leads to gratitude, and gratitude leads to love. So if you want to be that lover, start to become more sensual. And sensual, again, is not necessarily sexual. It's being aware of your 5 senses and your heart. And the part of the heart that you start with is, is appreciation. And that appreciation, again, that appreciation leads to gratitude, which leads to love.
Mm. Yeah, that was beautiful. And I also believe that sensuality, that kind of sensuality you're describing, really can help a woman to kind of reconnect with the feminine side and the femininity. So if it's been a while since you've really deeply felt really connected to your own femininity, that's another tool to create that opportunity as well. So
Sorry, I just get so excited.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so one of the things to support what you're saying is, ladies, if you want to do this, make a meal of nothing but raw foods, maybe raw fruits and maybe raw vegetables. Make your favorite tea, okay, or your favorite glass of wine, and turn on some music that you absolutely love. And before you eat any of the fruit, look at it, look at the colors, look at the way the light hits it, look at the shadow, look at the shape, look at the color. And is there a sensuality to the piece of fruit? Pick it up, feel what it feels like in your fingers, smell it before you taste it. When you bite it slowly, and then put the other piece down and just like feel it on your tongue, feel it on your gums, feel, is it juicy or is it dry? Does it snap, or is it a smooth bite, like biting through a strawberry versus biting through a snap pea? And then feel and taste what it tastes like, and be very, very present with those senses, your sense of sight, your sense of smell, your sense of appreciation for what it looks like, the sense of the appreciation for the color and the shadows and lighting and the shape and what it feels like in your fingers. Can you appreciate that? Appreciation doesn't necessarily mean that you have to always like something. Appreciate means to appraise, and appraise means to set a value for something. So determine whether or not you like it or don't. But for this exercise, only choose your favorite fruits and vegetables that are all raw, your favorite tea or your favorite glass of wine, or your favorite drink. Maybe it's orange juice. That's totally fine by me, right? But allow it to be a sensual moment. Eat slower. Be present with it. Put on your favorite music, but put the favorite music on softly in the background so that it doesn't distract and steal you away from the taste and the smell, but rather it just wafts along the air like that, the smell of the fragrance of flowers. One of my favorite experiences here in Tucson, Arizona, where I live, is that during the spring, the sweet acacia trees will blossom. And then occasionally, if I'm out or wherever I am, it just wafts across my nose. And I'm just like, oh, I just want to float and follow that right back to the tree. And you almost never know where the tree is. It's so hard to find them for some reason, but it doesn't negate the tree from sharing its fragrance, its beauty. And whatever has happened in your past doesn't make you invisible unless you allow it and buy into that belief. And so it also doesn't negate your beauty and your fragrance of love and sensuality and generosity and femininity in the lives of other people. So don't allow what's happened in the past to make you invisible, but rather let go of what happened in the past so that you can become beautiful and allow people and men to be drawn to you in a way that works really well for you.
Thank you, PJ. That was really beautiful. And I just have loved our conversation today. And I believe it will bless the lives of so many women out there. And I'm so grateful that you're here and that you're so open-hearted and generous in what you share. And I know that you also have a wonderful free gift for the ladies that are listening. And it's a video series. And I wonder if you could tell us just a little bit about it.
Absolutely. So there are 4 videos that total over an hour worth of content. And the quality of video, not super good. I shot it like 3 or 4 years ago, so please forgive the quality, but the content is juicy and delicious. It's amazing. So it's 4 steps on how to identify, how to find what's in your way for meeting a man, how to attract and nurture that relationship and keep that perfect relationship in your future. So 4 videos, over an hour worth of content. And if you feel like you'd like to also reach out and grab a 20-minute conversation with me, on there is a place where you can click and it says, I think it's like Discovering True Love Conversation with PJ, 20-minute call. So click on there, watch the videos, click on there if you'd like to chat. And I would love to talk to you, because what I find is so many people are like, oh, this is amazing information, but my situation is different. Probably not, but it feels like it's different for you because it's personal. So reach out to me and let's have a conversation and see what I can do for you.
Thank you, PJ. And for everyone watching or listening, you can just click on the link below where you're watching the video or audio from, and that's how you can connect with PJ and get his free gift. And I encourage you to do that now, because I can guarantee you we've only tapped into just the tip of the iceberg here of PJ's wisdom. So make sure you get that now. And also, for all of you that are listening, please also scroll down on the page and get the VIP package. It's an incredible value, and I know you're going to want to own this series as well as the bonuses in your own personal library. So PJ, thank you again one more time. So great to have you here.
My pleasure. Thank you. It's truly my pleasure to be in the presence of such amazing women like you and like your audience. And it's truly an honor for me to be a man to stand up and support women in all capacities, in all areas of their life, all over the world. So it's an honor for me to be present. Thank you.
Thank you, PJ. And also, PJ and I are both sending all of you lots of love, many blessings, and look forward to connecting with you further on more of the Man Panel. So, here and bye for now.